All right, y'all boys, what's going on? So we back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about cash flow, okay? Cash flow is very important. You know, if I had to give like my rankings in terms of what do I think is more important, how much money you make or how you manage your cash flow, I'm going to say cash flow. So I have this whiteboard here behind me. You know what I like to do with the whiteboard. I'm going to go over the points that I wrote down. And I've made these points before, but I want to just essentially cover cash flow from a high level, simple perspective. Because listen, I'm not even gonna start the rant. I'm just gonna get right into it. So effectively, let me just explain what cash flow is first, right? So cash flow, you probably know what cash flow is, but I'm gonna try to make this shit simple for everybody. Okay, I'm gonna start trying to act like you have no idea what I'm talking about. So cash flow is effectively if you have a job and you make X amount of money, the cash flow in your scenario is gonna be how much money you have coming in, which is your income, and how much money you have going out. It's like a river. Look at the flow, cash flow like a river. Okay, you have a flow, it just goes, right? So you have X amount of dollars that you're making minus expenses. You can call that Y, and the end result Z is going to be your I guess your net. But in this example, we're talking about cash flow. That's your cash flow, right? And when you understand what this means, you can start to understand why people who make good money in this country, in this world, whatever, are still broke. A lot of people who make good money and have good jobs, they still struggle with their incomes, and there's a reason for that. The reason is because they don't know how to manage their cash flow, right? And then even you might be watching this video, you might be a young person or somebody who's on to come up in your career, and you started to make more money, right? I know me personally, I make more money now than I did ever in my life, but I spend more money than I ever did as well, because just a part of making more money and growing up and living life, etc. You're gonna spend money. Life has expenses, right? But that's how you can deal with lifestyle creep, and you start to lose a grip on your cash flow. So that's another point why I think it's important. So essentially, that's why I wrote on the whiteboard here, income goes to you, and then it goes to your expenses, because that's essentially how the cycle works. And you, bro, I don't know if y'all can hear that fucking washing machine. Shit loud as fuck. Okay. Anyway, a lot of people have a problem where as soon as they get paid, they have to pay bills. They have, paycheck to paycheck, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not saying everybody can just solve that problem by virtue of understanding what cash flow is, but I think if you're a young person, again, I like to emphasize if you're a young person, because this is when it's very important to learn these things and to understand that if you don't manage your cash flow, it doesn't matter how much money you make, bro. You can make fucking $20 an hour at McDonald's, or you can make $100,000 a year somewhere, and you can still be just as broke as the $20 an hour person is, and have, you might have nicer things. This is what I always like to say. You might have nicer things, right? You might be able to afford a nicer car, but what does that mean in the grand scheme of life? If you're still struggling, if you're still cash poor, okay? Because people, and especially in this country, we live in a debt society, so it's easy for people to fund their lives by virtue of just buying nice things with debt. You can get a car loan, you can go on student loan debt, etc., credit card debt. You can just buy whatever you want pretty much in this country with loans and with debt. Right. So when you think about it from that perspective, what does it really mean to be somebody that's wealthy? In my opinion, not even in my opinion, the facts is that people who are wealthy are people who own assets, right? And why are assets valuable? One, because by virtue of inflation, assets are going to go up in value over time. So you're gonna retain your value against the dollar, and you're gonna get wealthy just by having investments that grow in time, right? And then on top of that, assets also provide cash flow. If you own real estate, why do people want to be real estate investors? Why do people want to own homes and shit and rent them out? It's called cash flow. If you can have people paying you to live in a house that you own, if you can pay less on the mortgage than what you're bringing in by virtue of renting the house out, that's the entire basis of real estate. That's what people do. I'm living in an apartment right now. You think my landlord is paying more for the mortgage on his house if he even has one anymore than I'm paying for the rent? No, that wouldn't make any sense. But that's the whole point. Cash flow is what is underlying all of these things I'm talking about right now. That's the basis of this shit. Real estate, goddamn, investing. If you want to be somebody who's an investor, you can't invest without making money and having enough money to put to the side to something else besides bills. How do you do that? Cash flow. You got to learn how to manage your cash flow. All right, so then pretty much say here, the problem, in my opinion, as well, is that a lot of people focus on, like I just talked about, salary and making more money. They're always talking about, oh, I need a better job, which, yes, we should all strive for better careers and better, to make more money. That's a good thing to do, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But if you can ever understand the basic principles of cash flow management to begin with, how are you ever going to get to the point where just because you have a good job, that means you're going to be doing better off financially? You probably won't. You probably will start to spend more money because you think you have more disposable income. People have a lot of fixed costs. You got car loans, student loans, credit cards, bills, subscriptions. I mean, I don't even know why I wrote subscriptions. That's just random. But shit, you never know. Hold on, because nowadays, a lot of people might have goddamn Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, all types of shit. Like now, yo, people really be having like 4 or 5 subscriptions, and I got YouTube Premium. That's it. I'm not getting no TV subscription. I don't need no cable. I don't need none of that extra shit, bro. But a lot of people do have subscriptions, so I guess that's a valid point to write down as well. I already said debt payments, and in general, overspending. So if you can pretty much understand, again, for like the 30th time, it's not about how much money you make. What matters truly is how you manage your income, how you manage your expenses as a human. You should try to look at your expenses in your life almost as though you're running a business. I know that's not really easy to do, and a lot of people have never even ran a business. I've never ran a business to begin with, so I don't mean like a real business. But from like an income accounting, I'm an accountant, right? So maybe this is just my accounting brain thinking. But from like an accounting perspective, think about how much money you're bringing in. Think about how much money you have going out. And if there's an imbalance there, if you don't have enough money left over to do the things you want to do and save money and pay your bills comfortably and have a somewhat nice life, you probably have a cash flow problem. That's what I'm talking about here. Okay, so then we have the visual example. I don't usually write visual examples, and I know y'all probably can really barely see this shit because it's like all the way over here, not all the way over here, but that shit is like a little small. But we have person A, okay? Person A, he makes $4,000, let's call it a month, right? He makes $4,000 a month. His expenses are $3,800 a month, right? So my boy might go to the bar, right? He might meet a girl at the bar and be like, yo, baby, you want a drink? I make 4 bands a month. I got it like that, right? And then you got the other dude over here, right? We got person B. Person B is over there in the corner. He got a little Jack and Coke, minding his business, right? That nigga only make $2,500 a month. That's why he chilling right now. He on his low key shit. He only make $25 a month, but his expenses are only $1,600 a month, right? So what does that mean? Relative to the other guy, person A only has cash flow net of $200 a month. So on the surface, like I say, my boy might be in the spot with a nice shirt on, a nice little, nice shoes, etc. But his expenses, part of the reason why he's so broke right now, he only got $200 left, is because he spent too much of his income. He only got $20 left compared to this guy, person B. Person B might not be as flashy. He might not be as glitz and glamour. He might not have the bag on him as much on face. But when you look at his bank account, you see his pocket, he got $700 more than the first dude. How is that? Because he managed his cash flow. He kept his expenses down relative to his income. It's a simple formula. This is why it's important to understand. You got to learn how to manage your cash flow. All right, y'all boys, that's pretty much it. I wrote at the bottom, I said you control 2 things. What comes in, what goes out. What comes in, what goes out. It's cash flow. All right, and I try to preach this shit over and over again because I want everybody that watches my videos to be rich. That's my ultimate goal. I make these videos because I want somebody who's a young person like me, who probably didn't come from the best, financial upbringing, who didn't have the best teachers around. We were blessed with this. I was blessed with the internet. This is how I learned everything I know, the internet. So I try to at least bring the knowledge that I was able to learn on the internet to you guys to make it simple, because it seems simple to me at least, right? I went to school for this shit. I'm an accountant by trade. I do this every day. It's a lot of these things can seem simple. But for a lot of us, we really don't understand these things. And I didn't understand these things at one point. I didn't even really think about these things at one point. So that's why I think it's important to keep in mind. If you appreciated this video, drop a like, subscribe. Y'all boys know the deal. We out.